My name's T, and I'm looking for the greatest video game of all time. Today we're playing Oh man. Booting up these old DOS games gives me a real sense of nostalgia. My first memories of playing video games with my dad. Thankfully not Duke Nukem.
You wanna dance?
But we did play stuff like Doom and The Legend of Skullkeep. One thing I noticed about the game feel straight away that reminds me of those old games is that the monsters are really creepy. And part of it is because you can't really see what they're meant to be, so your imagination kind of fills in the blanks. I mean, look at this thing. What is it supposed to be? I think maybe a couple of levels in, I think they're supposed to look like weird clones of the Duke. But yeah, the pigs are a bit better, but I mean, look at these corpses, for example. It's just a blob of stuff. I played one of the Duke Nukem games when I was younger, but it was on the PS1, it wasn't this one. And if you haven't played one, well, the Duke is a little dated. I'll let you make your mind up for yourself. But much like Sonic the Hedgehog or the Venga Boys or the Iraq War, Duke Nukem was really a product of the 90s. Now for those of you who weren't there, the 90s were like a really optimistic time. Everything was bright and rad and cool. And yeah, there was just really a general sense, at least in the West, that things were good. I know everyone thinks that a bit about their childhood because you don't have to pay taxes or go to work, but just to prove my point, a guy literally wrote a book called The End of History, which argued that we'd reached the pinnacle of human political ideology. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that Duke Nukem embodies the pinnacle of that ideology.
Much better.
No, I'm just kidding. He's super cool, but in a kind of ironic way, and I guess that's the most cool way to be cool. And that's really all there is to his personality, you know? He likes killing aliens and making out with babes. And that's all there is to him, really. It's kind of hard to tell where the irony begins and ends, particularly because this game is nearly 30 years old. And this probably wouldn't be such a problem if it wasn't for the ironic misogyny, let's say. And I certainly hope it's ironic. I'm not here to argue about that, that's your job in the comments. But the game really blurs the lines on this, and I think it did even back in the 90s. And it's hard to really mount a defense of this because you can straight up murder any of the women that are in the game.
Damn it. And
at some point you're actively encouraged to do so. But when you do, they spawn an alien, which kind of implies that they were aliens wearing human skin the whole time. But that feels like a weird post hoc justification. One of the game designers was like, hey, maybe we need to justify the fact that you can shoot sex workers in the face. Which is particularly weird because you've just paid them to show you their tits.
Shake it, baby.
So I just think that's a bit weird. If you disagree with me on this, you're probably just a bit of a creep, so stay away from the booze at the next family gathering because you're that uncle. Anyway, cultural context out of the way, let's talk about the gameplay. If you don't know, Duke Nukem is basically just a rip-off of Doom, but a pretty good rip-off. You basically just run around these levels, shooting all the enemies and trying to find the exit. What I like about these games that I miss in modern FPSs is that it kind of means that when you're shooting, as long as you point your gun in the general direction of the enemies, they just die. You don't need to aim for body parts and stuff. And this is really satisfying. As someone particularly who sucks at modern day FPSs, I can tell you it doesn't feel very good when the enemy dies because you shoot them 16 times in the legs. But in this, it's different. You know, every shot feels like you slam them straight in the chest. And it doesn't really stop being satisfying, you know. As long as you hit them, it's either a miss or a really satisfying hit, which feels good. There's a bunch of different weapons, you know. You start with the pistol, you work your way through the shotgun and the machine gun. You can even go up to RPGs and grenades and stuff, which is fine. Probably the main gameplay challenge is maintaining health and ammo management, which was a big thing in these older games, and it basically had me save scumming like an absolute madman. One of the things I do miss about games like this, for better or worse, is that you can just pick up and play. There's no intro, there's no tutorial. They kind of just assume that you'll figure it out as you go along. And it's cool. There's about like 2 seconds probably between loading the game and just playing and shooting. And the same with the story. It's kind of all incidental. This ties into the level design, actually. The levels kind of lead into each other. For example, like in one level you blow up a nuclear submarine, and the next level you have to escape the sinking hull of the ship. But other than that, there's no real storytelling to it. In the level before it, you think you're going to finish the level in the normal way, and then you get ambushed and tied to an electric chair. So it's not really story in the conventional sense. Like these are just plot points to lead you through different levels. But that's kind of all it needs to be, and it's fun and often unexpected. It's refreshingly straightforward. While we're talking about the level design though, I do have a few gripes. Although the level design overall is pretty cool, as I mentioned, there's lots of neat set pieces and lots of secrets if you're into that stuff. There are some extremely frustrating points where you can't figure out where to go. There's a level called Death Row that in particular is awful for this. There's just a series of, I guess you'd call them puzzles, that are just really obscure. Like first you have to find 2 doors that are hidden behind an existing revolving door to open a force field to get into the cell block, to then open a specific cell, and then in one of those cells there's a poster that if you don't walk close up enough to it you would never even realise that there's a hidden tunnel behind there. Also, in that room you're being shot by a turret from the outside, so it's not like you're given time to explore, you're just rushing in and out. And then once you get there, there's a crack in that wall that is quite hard to see. But if you blow it up, there's then a smaller room. You have to walk through fire to get there, so you have to take damage. And then there's another wall that you have to blow up to finally get into the sewers, which is the next part of the game. But yeah, that is just obnoxiously obtuse. Part of the fun of these games is figuring out where to go and the fastest routes to get through. But that is just obnoxiously obtuse. That said, once you know where you're going, you can breeze through the level, so if you kind of mess up, you can just restart at the start of the level, and it's very fast to get back to where you were. I suppose this level design makes it a really fun game for speedrunning, but I'm not a fucking nerd, so there. If there are any nerds watching though, I thought I'd share some fun facts about Duke Nukem 3D. First fact is, this game was ported to the PlayStation and they changed the name to Duke Nukem Total Meltdown. Okay, that wasn't really a very fun fact. However, this next one will make up for it. So they named their character Duke Nukem, but then they thought that the name was trademarked by the TV show Captain Planet. So they changed his name to Duke Nukem. Nukem. Thankfully, it turned out they were wrong about the whole trademark thing, so they changed it back to Nukem. I'm glad, otherwise I would have to say Nukem this whole video. And no one wants to hear that anymore. So fact number 3. Many of you will know this already. The sequel to this game was called Duke Nukem Forever. It became a bit of a meme because it was delayed for about a decade after spending, I think, 15 years in development total. And when it came out, it was kind of underwhelming and the meme just kind of evaporated. But that game was released in 2011. which is over a decade ago. So if you remember this whole story, it means you're fucking old. Too old to be watching video games on YouTube. But hey, at least you're not making them, so hit the subscribe button. Anyway, so for me, the game was way more fun than I was expecting, but I don't think we found the best game ever. But I'm just one guy, so I thought we should listen to what some other people had to say. So I headed to the home of all game reviews, Metacritic. Anonymous MC had this to say: "The game doesn't even deserve my time. Fucking awful. First of all, the aliens look like pigs, and if that wasn't enough for you, Duke Nukem is pretty lame. He has this nerdy blonde buzzcut and twerp trousers. It's terrible. I felt no love for the character, and thus I didn't care when he died. The controls are slippery at best, 1 out of 10. Bad game. I only enjoyed the strippers." So, there you go. Not a very positive review. So for balance, I picked another one. This is from Nikki X37, who says, "Growing up, I always believed that this was a generic copy of Doom. I know now that I am incorrect in thinking that, but the gameplay was similar. The game is suspenseful even today. For us, that's 2013, which means that even this review is 10 years old." They continue, "A game that would be great for bets to see who can last the longest. The old school game has around 28 levels. Today they have thousands of mods and levels. 3 out of 10. Well, you heard it here first. Duke Nukem 3D is not the best game of all time.